Hello. Hi, all. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all those who joined us from across the globe. This session is going to be focused on HYCU's coverage for Microsoft, and the session is recorded. And if you have any questions, please post it through the Q&A box that you see, and I'll try to answer any questions that come up. But if for any reason I'm not able to answer any of the questions, I'll make sure to follow up with you over an email and get your questions answered. And my focus, a little bit about myself, I am Bala Bharati. I am part of the product team at HYCU. I focus on the Microsoft business and the DevOps business of HYCU. So with that, let's get started. So a little bit about HYCU for those of you who are not very familiar with um, what who we are and what we do. So Bain Capital and Crew are our key investors. Apart from our key investors, we also have investments from the strategic investment arms of Cisco, Okta, and Atlassian. This is something that we are very proud of because these are names that are recognized across the globe and are big industry leaders in their own spaces. And to have us valued and have them see enough value in us and invest in us, it's a big thing for us. So that is something that we wanted to point out. And we have operations across all continents, whether it is AMER or Europe or APAC or Australia. We do have presence in all continents, and we have alliances with the key uh, players in the market in terms of infrastructure, whether it is Microsoft, Dell, or Nutanix, or many other companies whose workloads we back up. So that is a little bit about who we are and what we do. And this is also something that I wanted to point out. The most recent IDC MarketScape for worldwide SaaS data protection rated HYCU as the leader. There is a significant gap between HYCU and the next vendor, as you can see in the slide here. So, when it comes to SaaS data protection, we are other analysts as well. GigaHome has recognized us as a leader in their report. Gartner has recognized there has been consistent recognition that we've got over the past few years. And now let's move on to the focus of today, which is Microsoft Estate. So the key thing about Microsoft is its value, the value that it provides to the mid-sized businesses in the market. So if you look at the services offered by Microsoft in terms of their cloud offerings and in terms of their SaaS offerings and M365 Entra, it's quite unmatched, really. So for a mid-size business who's looking to scale up, the Microsoft provides the perfect platform, whether it is for in terms of storage or compute or databases or critical SaaS applications like CRMs or the collaboration layer of M365, which is very dominant in its space, or Microsoft Entra ID. We'll be talking more about Entra ID, but the fact is Entra ID is not just a Microsoft thing. It spreads well beyond Microsoft and provides an identity layer to a lot of other critical applications in the tech stack of a modern business. So the fact is Microsoft's capabilities till day are kind of unmatched. There are other cloud vendors, but then their ability to provide as meaningful value to the mid-market businesses is definitely not in the same range as Microsoft. So, which is why we've seen a lot of our customers who are in the mid-sized businesses, they completely rely on Microsoft for a lot of their core infrastructure. There are going to be dependencies outside of what you see in the screen. Of course, there will be dependencies, and but if you look at the core requirements of a modern day businesses, it's all taken care of by Microsoft very often when it comes to mid-sized businesses. But there is a very common misconception in the market. When I mean misconception, when not just with Microsoft, but with any other service for that matter. So when we go to a managed service provider like Microsoft does in with its cloud and D365 and M365, the assumption is they take care of the data protection of the data. Like, but the fact is, this is not just like a misconception among the people who are not very well informed. Even the most well informed and the most experienced people within the industry tend to think so, and that is what we realized in the state of SaaS resilience report that we released towards the end of last year. So when we interviewed a number of folks, hundreds of IT leaders and administrators, 66% of them, which is essentially two-thirds of the responses that we got, uh, noted the fact that they were not aware of the shared responsibility model of Microsoft, meaning that they were thinking that the data protection in SaaS, in Microsoft services, is all taken care of by Microsoft. But the matter of fact is, if you can just like Google Microsoft shared responsibility, you'll get the very first link that you'll get, that should be from Azure's shared responsibility model, that where they've noted down the differences or the marker between Microsoft responsibility and the customer responsibility. So whatever you see on the left side of this line, this is essentially Microsoft responsibility, which is nothing but uptime and availability of the platform. They are not responsible for your data if somebody accidentally deletes a mailbox, or if a ransomware attack happens and all your files are encrypted, or if somebody misconfigures and the misconfigured policy wipes out all your data. Those are scenarios Microsoft does not take responsibility for. That is your responsibility. That is the customer responsibility. So under Microsoft share responsibility model, they handle the infrastructure and the customers take care of the data. That is what the shared responsibility model is all about. So if you look at the risk profile, like it's going to be different from organization to organization. There may be some cases where Microsoft's default protection capabilities like recyclement can be helpful, but there are a lot of other scenarios where the native protection capabilities are absolutely not enough. So there is, like, again, a very common misconception that we come across in the market, where people are very happy with the default protection mechanisms that are available in Azure and in Microsoft's platform. But if you look at the what's happening today, like you wake up daily to find news about AI agents deleting years of data, some automation workflows going wrong, and years of data getting wiped out. And these are things that happens daily. And there are malicious activities, there are accidental deletions. So the the risk profile of every organization is different. There is no doubt about it. But then every organization does have a risk profile. So it's the data loss or the disruptive scenarios. It's always going to be a matter of when and not if. So you are absolutely expected to have all your security measures in place to prevent any kind of malicious activity, or even like insider activities or accidental deletions and so on. But despite that, true resilience comes from the fact that you are able to you build an infrastructure, you build a system which helps you recover from data loss and disruption scenarios. But because at the end of the day, in today's day and age, it's just a matter of when and not if a data loss is going to happen. And it can be today, it can be tomorrow, or it can be the day after. It's just a matter of when, really. So when we've established that data protection is your responsibility, and most organizations we speak to genuinely want to act on that. And there are a good number of organizations who still do not have the awareness about shared responsibility model. But then there are also organizations who are aware of the shared responsibility model and want to act on that. But the problem isn't really intent. It's that the tools available in the market and how the market has evolved over the past few years. That's what has resulted in today's scenario, where you typically see multiple data protection tools running for the Microsoft stack alone. Because when you talk to our customers, we see somebody like back in the day, before a few years, has probably decided, looked at M365 and realized M365 needs data protection, they go and get protection for M365. And then a couple of years later, they realize that some Azure services also need to be protected. They do another evaluation and choose another vendor or go with the native capabilities of provided by Azure. Or and then they are evaluating D365 now, and then GitHub and other Microsoft services as well. So at the end of the day, even those who have some sort of protection, they're not having one tool because the market is in such a manner that where a Microsoft 365 data protection vendor may not have good Azure data protection capabilities. And an Azure data protection vendor may not have a great Dynamics 365 data protection. So that is the gap that we are trying to address today. And with so many tools, each tool can operate in a different manner. Some tools they set the backup policies, the retention policies themselves, and they do not provide any options to customers. Some may provide a few options, and very few actually let customers completely customize the backup frequency and retention and so on. So if you have multiple tools, your data protection strategy or the data protection posture is going to be a bit of a complication because each tool operates in a different manner. And when that happens, when it's time to prove compliance or run an audit or demonstrate recovery readiness to your leadership or regulators, they may be a problem because fragmented reporting is a result of tool sprawl, and then you're stitching together data from multiple tools and multiple formats, and it's always not the best state to be in. So that is the gap that we are trying to address. We are trying to provide one platform, which is the HYCU R-Cloud platform, which helps you protect all of your Microsoft services that we've been talking about, whether it is M365, whether it is critical Azure services like VMs, files, data lake, and or blob storage, or you're talking about SaaS products like Dynamics 365, GitHub, or you're talking about Entra ID. HYCU R-Cloud is the only platform that you need to protect all of your Microsoft infrastructure. And this is the same platform that you can extend beyond Microsoft as well. You can use it for protecting other SaaS and public cloud workloads as well. We'll talk more about it later. But for now, if we focus on Microsoft 365, Microsoft ecosystem, our cloud is the single platform that you need. So the point with the platform is data protection by itself is a platform problem. It's not it's often misconceived as a point product problem. Like you don't need multiple tools for data protection because to implement one data protection strategy, which is what you want across your entire um, tech ecosystem, you need to approach it from a platform perspective, which is what HYCU R-Cloud provides today. And the features that you see here, the backup autopilot, which is essentially what we are trying to tell is it is a completely set and forget policy driven backups that we do. You set the policies once, and those backup policies are going to be repeatedly taking place. Backups are going to be done based on the backup policies that you set, and you're not going to really have to do anything apart from configuring backups once. And the retention again is something that you configure as per your needs. We don't provide you any options to choose from, or we don't restrict you to do anything. It's completely up to you because the backups are going to live in your infrastructure. And search and fetch capabilities, meaning you can choose exactly what you want and recover exactly what you want. You don't need to do like full instance recovery or anything like that. And when it comes to immutability, we'll be talking more about it. We provide storage level immutability. That is essentially you configure immutability in your own storage, and you don't really want your vendor to be doing a immutability configuration on your behalf. So that is something that we allow, and a lot of other or almost all other vendors in the market today who offer managed storage, they cannot do that because they configure immutability on your behalf, and that at that very level, the immutability becomes questionable because there is not even a way for the customers to go and validate that immutability. You just take your vendor's word for it, and you need to run with it. And then lastly, legal hold. So legal hold is not something that we do only for M365. Sorry. Legal hold is a platform feature of R-Cloud. It's not just something that we do only for M365 like a lot of other vendors. It's something that you can do on all workloads that are protected by R-Cloud today. So firstly, I wanted to highlight our coverage for Microsoft 365. Our coverage includes all critical services. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight really is the fact that we cover Teams, telephone, uh, excuse me. So we HYCU R-Cloud does protect telephone data configuration today. Your If you are a mid-sized business who's moved on from your legacy private branch exchange to Microsoft Teams as your primary telephony exchange, I mean telephony platform, the Teams phone number assignment and the call data records that are residing in Teams is very critical for your business operations. If you are somebody who is using Teams as your primary telephony infrastructure and you're not protecting Teams phone data, there is a possibility of a huge disruption, because once that is lost, your entire telephony operations it become disrupted. So that is something that we protect, and we do not really know any other vendor who offers Teams data protection as of today. So that's a real highlight for particularly valuable for businesses whose operations depend heavily on telephony infrastructure. And with respect to Entra ID, if you bundle Entra ID protection into M365 protection, we offer a bundled package which includes Entra ID along with all the M365 data protection that we do today. So there is again a lot of misconception around Entra ID data protection. The landscape has significantly evolved. I mean, the understanding around Entra ID data protection. So it's not just an M365 login system. So it is like essentially the master key for your entire app estate. So every where you use login with Microsoft, Entra ID is what is actually controlling the picture there. So whether it is your conditional access policies or your apps registrations, your service principals, or your custom attributes, and any user and identity related issue that you have configured for Microsoft or any other application, it's all going to be in Entra ID. And losing Entra ID is very much like having all your despite having all your data, if you lose Entra ID, you're not able to access your data. So it's like having all your stuff locked up into a house, and if you end up losing the key to that house, you will not be able to access any stuff within the house. Pretty much that is what is the reality when Entra ID data loss happens, and that is why we recommend protecting Entra ID, giving Entra ID the same amount of importance as your data, if not more importance to Entra ID, because without Entra ID, your data just sits there and you will be in a position where you're not able to access your data at all. And with respect to other applications, our coverage is pretty solid. We do cover all the data along with the key configurations and settings so that you're able to be up and running when there is data loss or disruption scenario. And D365 is something that we announced very recently, HYCU R-Cloud support for D365. So currently we are protecting sales, customer service, and field service modules. We are planning on adding more modules as we go forward. But what I really want to highlight is the relationship aware recovery that HYCU R-Cloud can do today. So if you look at D365 data, let's look at sales, for example. It's all the underlying structure within D365. It's data sitting in tables, and the tables are being connected to each other. So it's all about tables and their connections with other tables. So when you are recovering data, the relationships is almost as important as the data itself. Because without relationships, you will not be able to make use or make sense of the data that you have in place. For example, there can be X amount of accounts. You can have 10 accounts in your sales module, and then these 10 accounts may have like 10 contacts each. So you'll be having 100 contacts, each of which is mapped to an account. And then there may be an X amount of opportunities, an X amount of then there will be codes that are linked to these opportunities. Then there will be your email history and other stuff that are linked with the opportunity, the contact, and so on. So it's just a bunch of tables that have complex relationships with each other. And in the market today, all other vendors, if you look at any vendor, there is always going to be a limitation around relationship aware recovery. A lot of vendors talk about recovering data with some limitations or caps on relation. They can do 1:1 relationship, or they can do relationship recovery up to 3 levels. Some vendors even go on to state that they don't recommend doing relationship recovery at all, despite them like on paper supporting relationship over recovery, because there are like known problems with it. But HYCU, as of today, we support relationship aware recovery. That is a gap that we've tried to address, and there are absolutely no limitations or any nuances when it comes to relationship aware recovery that we are supporting with Dynamics 365. And like I told, currently we support these 3 modules. Our module coverage within these 365 is expected to increase as we move forward, and that is something that I wanted to highlight. And um, this is a very when you are working in cloud, probably the single biggest fear that anybody has today with who are predominantly working on cloud infrastructure is I'm sorry, the fact that your date your if what happens if your cloud goes down, what happens if you're working with Azure, and if your Azure fails for 6 hours or 12 hours. Before a couple of years, this may not have like resonated a lot with most people. Why will my cloud go down? Why will Azure go down is the first question, the first thing that anybody would think. But in today's day and age, with all things that are happening around us, anything can go down at any time. That's the reality that we are living in today. You wake up and you see news, and the first thing that kind the a thing that very often pops up in news is some data center goes down for whatever reason. So your what HYCU does is you can back up your Azure VMs, and when needed, you can recover your Azure VMs directly up and running as an Amazon EC2 instance, or as a Google instance. The same with Azure Files and Blob Storage. You can recover your Azure VMs, Azure Files, and Blob Storage content directly on Amazon and Google Cloud as well. And one more thing that I wanted to highlight is, if you back up your VMware or Nutanix VMs on HYCU, you can still recover them to Azure as well. So it works both ways. So that is something that I wanted to highlight. And talking about resilience, like in what key value that HYCU gives you is resilience in the form of having data in your control. It's not just like in our definition of cloud resilience is your ability to take the Microsoft data outside of Microsoft and place it in a region and in a place of your choice. I think that is where the true cloud resilience comes into picture, and that is what HYCU allows you to do. So if you go for other vendors, you're limited to certain number of choices. If you go for Microsoft backup capabilities, again, you're going to be restricted to Microsoft's own infrastructure. But true resilience comes from the fact that even if my entire cloud infrastructure is down, I can still take my backups from another cloud or any SD compatible platform like we mentioned here, and then I should be able to get up and running with it, even in extreme cases of my entire cloud being down for even for a couple of hours. That is what we enable you to do. And if you look at the targets that we support today, it's any S3 compatible target. It's all the 3 public cloud vendors, and then we have like a strategic partnership with Dell, meaning Dell DDVE, which is an S3 compatible target offered by Dell, can also be used as a target. And then you can use other S3 compatible targets as Wasabi, Cloudian, or OVH Cloud. These are some of the vendors who we've certified against, and technically it is possible for you to use any S3 compatible target. And if you look at the landscape today, the what other vendors are doing, we don't see any other data protection SaaS vendor who can offer you sovereignty. That is the ability for you to control where your data lives, where your backup lives, and that is something that only HYCU provides as of today, where you have 100% control over where your backup data lives and where your backup data resides, basically. And immutability is also something that we spoke about earlier. You control immutability with HYCU because you're bringing your own storage, and so you configure immutability at storage level. You don't let your vendor configure immutability on your behalf. And a lot of other vendors, like, they try to spread across this message that managed storage is better because maintaining and keeping your own storage is going to be a big hassle and administratively demanding and so on. But that's not really true in many senses. We are truly committed to help you and make this entire process as seamless as possible. And it's just like any other S3 bucket that you maintain. You just need to have once set up, and it's all up and running, and you have complete control over your data without even needing to come to us in the future if you want to access your data. And another thing I wanted to highlight was a lot of our customers, like when we talk with them, we realized that the managed storage offering can come across as well, like, at least in paper, it can come across as more cost efficient option. But if you do the maths, like the vendors who offer managed storage, they are charging a premium on their data protection like licenses, because the storage is actually reflecting in the pricing that they charge. And if you look at HYCU's pricing and if you compare it with any other vendor, you'll be able to see the difference in terms of pricing, because at the end of the day, there is a storage cost, and that is not included in HYCU's licensing, and that is very clearly reflecting in the prices of HYCU's licenses as well. And for those of you who are worried about, like, the cloud data egress and storage cost, we do have like a partnership with Dell DDVE, which is a strategic partnership with Dell. And so Dell DDVE is an S3 compatible target, like I mentioned earlier. You can host it in any of the clouds, whether it is AWS, Azure, or Google. And the fact is, all the public cloud vendors, their entire business model is to charge you based on the amount of data that you have in their cloud. So there is no incentive for any of the cloud providers to actually go and deduplicate or compress your data. So because the more data you store in their infrastructure, the more money you got to pay them. So that is where a tool like Dell DDVE can be helpful, which is Dell Data Domain Virtual Edition. So there is, because of our partnership, we are able to access some of the Dell's proprietary protocols that helps in storage and source side deduplication, and also in the Dell DDV is capable of doing target side deduplication and compression. DDV is known to provide industry leading deduplication and compression ratios. Depending on the type of data, we've noticed deduplication ratio of even up to 40:1, which is significant in terms of storage space efficiency. It can help you reduce your storage space significantly, and subsequently the cost can also be impacted. So just wanted to highlight the fact that the backup configuration is as simple as just filling up this dialog box. You just need to configure, you need to authenticate your source, you need to enter your tenant ID, your client ID, and your secret or certificate value, and then you're set with configuration. And then you just need to fill up this dialog box and assign this policy to the workloads that you want to protect. That is as simple. It's just as simple as I just explained it. It's a very super simple process, and the best thing is it just completely set and forget. Once you set and you're actually once you configure your policies, you're actually well set in terms of your data protection. And you can use the same policies for all your workloads if that's what you want, and you can configure different policies for different workloads, and so on. Like, it's completely customizable and as per your requirements. So this is our coverage today. Like I told earlier, we protect all key Azure services along with a number of critical SaaS applications, along with M365 and the Entra ID layer as well. But our cloud is not essentially restricted to Microsoft alone. We are well beyond Microsoft. So if for this webinar, we focused on Microsoft because we've seen our customers being Microsoft shops, the mid-sized businesses being heavily dependent on Microsoft. But then if you're using other SaaS, other cloud like AWS or Google Cloud Services as well, you still need just our cloud. You don't need really anything else. Our coverage is more than 95 workloads as of today. Both the breadth and depth is quite unmatched in the industry when it comes to SaaS and public cloud workloads. And yeah, so this is what as parting thoughts, I just wanted to leave you with this. Truly, we are able to provide you true cloud cross-cloud resilience. So you're not dependent on one vendor, whether it is Microsoft or any other cloud. You're always going to be independent of your vendor because we provide you true cross-cloud resilience. And your backups stay in your control. We never access your data, or you don't need to be dependent on us to for anything related to your backups, because you always retain control of your data. And then our strategic partnership with Dell is a very key differentiator for us, and it provides great value for our customers because of all the storage space savings. And then if you look at the market today, very few are truly SaaS, completely agentless and no plugins and appliances. That is what HYCU provides today. And for all the workloads, that is any SaaS or public cloud workloads, it's always going to be HYCU R-Cloud. That's the only platform that you need. With that, I don't really see any questions. Okay, we've got one question which is around the pricing. So the pricing for it depends on the service that you're talking about. Like if it is for M365, it is $3 per user per month. And if it is for Dynamics 365 and GitHub, it's $4 per user per month. And for all other services, we do have like individual prices. For VMs, we provide per core or per instance-based pricing. And for storage, we offer per TB based pricing. So the actual price that each customer will be paying depends heavily on their region, on the discussions with the sales team, on the volume. So there are a lot of factors. The fact is, you may be the numbers that I told are list prices, and the fact is you may be paying a lot less in reality if you choose to purchase our cloud licenses. And where does the storage reside physically? The physically within whatever target you choose. So, for example, if you choose Azure blob storage as the target, depending on the region that you choose, the data resides in that data center of Azure. And if you choose to go with AWS, similarly, depending on the region that you choose, the data will be in the AWS data center of that of your choice, basically. And when it comes to DDVE again needs to reside in one of the clouds. So DDVE, your data goes into DDVE. DDVE lives in a cloud. So again, it depends on the region of the cloud that you choose. So with that, I'd close the webinar for today. Thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us today, and looking forward to meeting you all in some other chance. Thank you.